Last week, one driver has locked his way into the championship 4. Another driver is mathematically close to locking himself in, which means 6 more drivers could be fighting for the final 2 spots. Welcome to the Racing Line Network as Season 7 of the Full Send Racing Series rolls into California, the virtual Auto Club Speedway for the California 200. This track has sadly hosted its last race in 2023. This track was usually mainstay of the early portion of the NASCAR season, as well as being a notable part of the IndyCar schedule. And speaking of schedules, let's go ahead and roll into what we have tonight. Last week, it was Cameron Sarton victorious under the lights at the virtual Phoenix Raceway, and much like McCann has cemented himself into the round of 8, Sarton has cemented his spot into the championship 4. And with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the season standings coming into this event tonight. As we see, Brian McCann has plus 34 points. He is pretty much, it is going to be possible for him to mathematically lock himself in for tonight. So pretty much all he has to do is finish the race, and he has locked himself in. So we are pretty much going to be looking at Hunter Carson, Jonathan Burt, Tony Brent, Philip Chavez, Michael Thorpe Jr., as well as William Duff. The drivers that are 5th through 8th in the standings will then be fighting alongside the drivers 5th through 13th in the 5th through 12th in the standings, to be more precise. I'm going to see which of the 2 drivers are going to be in the final 2 spots here for tonight. Let's go ahead and throw it down trackside. As these drivers are just now getting onto the grid, there is a quick look at the facility for next week, heading to the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway. But this is where we are at tonight, and this is your starting grid. It is Brian McCann on the front row once again. Michael Thorpe Jr., second place, and only just under a 10th of a second behind, so he can provide a pretty good challenge for Brian McCann going into tonight's event, especially off of the race start. Sitting on row number 2, it will be Cameron Sarton. He has locked himself in. He has pretty much nothing to worry about, so he is safe going into tonight. Hunter Carson looking to cement his spot in the final 4, if you will. He starts off, appropriately enough, in 4th place. Could that be a sign or just mere coincidence? Jonathan Burt will roll off in the 5th place position as he rounds up the top 5. David McConnell starts off in 6th. 7th place is going to be Travis Start in the number 26. And then to his outside is the 17 of William Duff, who has missed the starting grid, actually. So he qualified 8th, but he will by default be starting in last. And then Larry Griffin and Ryan Lynch qualified 9th and 10th. And Doug Pierce did not set a qualifying time, as he will start in 11th. Getting ready to go green flag racing here for tonight, the final race. 100 laps on the board. The stage ends at lap number 25, so we'll be finding out very early on which of these drivers will be cementing their spots. Effectively, McCann, even though he technically hasn't mathematically secured his spot yet, well, he pretty much has, especially with how he has ran and where he has run. We'll get into the details of that here in a few laps' time. But first, let's give the drivers a chance to sort everything out here on the main start, because the green flag is about to fly here at the virtual Auto Club Speedway. We're racing here, 100 laps on the board. We see around the outside, it is Michael Thorpe Jr. pulling up a fight against the number 8 of Brian McCann as they go through turns 3 and 4. Michael Thorpe Jr. could potentially lead the first lap here. Swings around the outside, slides off turn 4, but he just gets enough momentum regardless to cut off the 8 of McCann and lead the first lap here at the virtual All Eclipse Speedway. Great start for Michael Thorpe Jr. And all he has to do is carry this momentum. In fact, with where everybody's running now, let's take a look. Well, that's a live championship standings, but regardless, that is pretty final. We'll get your timing tower up here in a few moments' time. As things stand right now, if Michael Thorpe Jr. were to win this race, it would be a 4-point difference, I think, regardless, between Hunter Karsten and Jonathan Burt. William Duff is the driver in a must-win situation. After missing the starting grid, it's not going to be the most helpful for him, but there is still a chance that a lot can happen. We do have pit stops, we do have strategy, so we'll see how things pan out here. Let's go ahead and get this up for the moment. The current running order up on the left-hand side of your screen. Despite starting from pit road, William Duff isn't too far back. He was very lucky with where he was let out. I believe this week, a little bit of a gray paint scheme, maybe trying to do a little bit of weight saving effectively on that number 17 to give him the extra momentum. Although, granted, there is no such thing as weight-saving paint in iRacing. It's just a little bit of good luck change, no doubt. So down the back straightaway we go. Hunter Karsten lurks in the third place position. Jonathan Burt may be looking to capitalize on running the lower line against Hunter Karsten. Burt started 5th, and he has moved up a couple positions. Same goes for Hunter Karsten. It is Cameron Sarton, who shockingly is a little bit left on the back foot here. He started off in the 3rd place spot, but has fallen back a couple positions. But to be fair, he doesn't really even need to race this week. He doesn't have to put too much of a fight. He is fine. He is safe, so not much to worry about for the number 1 machine. Although that's not to say wins don't mean a single thing, because if you do win, if he does win again, then he can get some extra points. Well, some extra playoff points, more accurately. That could help him heading into the Championship 4. But we still have 95 laps to go, and Cameron Sarton was looking for a little bit of a spot off turn number 4, but decided against that move there off of the corner, so he fell back in line with Jonathan Burt. They'll try again through turns 1 and 2, riding the inside lane. He does have the momentum. Jonathan Burt was able to carry it off of turn 2. Now this is intriguing. Cameron Sarton is already saving. He is thinking long term, and I don't blame him. He doesn't have much to worry about, so he can afford, he is able to afford to do something a little bit different. It looks like that is working in his favor. He moves to the inside off turn 4, turn 2, way down the inside on the back stretch, but moves up to 4th place at the end of the day as they enter turn number 3. So once again, the drivers in yellow are the ones contending for a championship spot. And the ones in green are effectively locked in. Well, confirmed locked in if you are Cameron Sarton, and very mathematically locked in if you are Brian McCann. In fact, this goes into the conversation earlier as well, which I was about to get into. even if Brian McCann, as he moves to the inside to take the lead through turns 3 and 4, even if Brian McCann were to finish in 11th, that would be 26 points. He is 11 points shy coming into this race of locking himself in. So, officially / unofficially, I would give it officially at this point because, well, he showed up. I think it's more than enough. So we can, oh man, they'll go side by side. Throw the graphic up a little bit later because this race for first is definitely starting to get a little bit heated between these two. You see the point difference there. If Michael Thorpe were to not win this race, he would be 10 points shy of Jonathan Burt. So every position matters here. Tony Brent missing this week, same with Philip Chavez. What a shame for Tony Brent to be missing as the 34. Thorpe slides up into the outside wall, just hangs on to it. Here comes Hunter Karsten to add another point to his tally. Not what Michael Thorpe needs, but again, there still are stages here. So we'll have to regroup and get back in front of effectively Hunter Karsten in order to secure his spot. It is 7 points between Hunter Karsten and Jonathan Burt, and then 11 points between Jonathan Burt and Michael Thorpe Jr., and then a further 20 points between William Duff and Michael Thorpe Jr. as they go 3 wide for second place. Already, Cameron Sarton on the inside, Hunter Karsten on the outside. Sarton swerves to avoid 34. They're using all of the space possible. Sarton backs out, moves up back behind the 13 of Hunter Karsten. He'll move up to the outside lane instead. Might as well, and I don't blame him. And look at the run that Cameron Sarton has pulled off on the outside, off of turn number 2, down the back straightaway, and just like that, sent down 2 positions is Michael Thorpe Jr. And same goes for Hunter Karsten. He is also a bit on the back foot here. And sliding off turn number 4 once again is the 34 of Michael Thorpe Jr. So we are just over 10 laps shy of reaching the point of the stage. Stage ends lap 25. Travis Stark going to pick up another point in his favor here as he heads down to turns 3 and 4. Travis Starr is also saving. Now, this is very intriguing as to the early saving for these drivers. I'll have to, if we do get a caution, I'll have to ask them about this because it is very intriguing to be saving this early on. Maybe the fuel limit is a little bit lower than I expected, but should be enough to reach the stage, you would think. Back around the outside goes Michael Thorpe Jr., not able to carry the momentum off of turn number 4 is Travis Stark, but he manages to hold on to it. Meanwhile, back for 6th position is Jonathan Burt and David McConnell. Inventive, keen eyes may have been watching the timing tower as Hunter Karsten has actually caught his way back up to Cameron Sarton. And of course, right when I say that, Travis Start manages to get by the 34 of Michael Thorpe Jr. the second we look away, but here comes Michael Thorpe Jr., slides up the outside, and slides a little bit too much, burning the rear tires. It's a lot about carrying momentum here at Olive Grove Speedway. How many times is the word momentum going to be used tonight? No idea. But let's go ahead and check the usual weather report. It is 88 degrees air temperature and just a mildly cool 136 degrees of track temperature. That's in Fahrenheit. In Celsius, 31 and 58 respectively. So, in case the sliding wasn't enough off of the corners, well, you also have a 136 degree track to deal with as well. Think about last week at the virtual Phoenix Raceway, we did have about, I think it averaged 78 degree track temperature under the lights, keep in mind, at night, so the differences are quite contrast. 9 laps to go until the completion of the stage. Hunter Karsten set his sights on the back of Cameron Sarton. Let's go ahead and bring up the live championship standings as things are. 6-point difference between Hunter Karsten and Jonathan Burt. But the key thing that we're looking at is between Jonathan Burt and Michael Thorpe Jr. Hopefully William Duff as well. We'll see how things pan out here. Even though it's a smaller than usual field, there is still a very high likelihood of a caution, especially with how slick the track is. It is very possible. That's right on board with Hunter Karsten. He chases down the one of Cameron Sarton. Switching back to the rear view of Travis Starr as he coasts his way into turns 1 and 2. 34 putting up a fight regardless, as he still has his sights set. And already we are about to be 6 laps away from the completion of the stage. Here comes Doug Pierce, putting on a little bit of a battle of his own for the 6th place position. Jonathan Burt slides up, runs the top side. David McConnell follows suit. It's going to be side by side between the 39 and 6 drag race. It is 39 and the 6 at the start finish line. Every point matters for the 6 of Jonathan Burt here. I can better see the difference in speed between these two drivers here from up above, as we will have 5 laps until the completion of the stage. Carrying that momentum from the top side down the back straightaway is Jonathan Burt. Stays reserved in his own lane up the very top. And we see Doug Pierce. The car had moved forward a little bit on entry to turn number 3, but not enough for the 6th place position. As Michael Thorpe Jr. has made his way by, I believe, if I had to figure, Travis Starr had slid off turn number 4, especially with this huge gap between the 34 and the 26. You see the 34 there? About a 3.5 car length gap, I want to say, down the back straightaway. Travis Starr nearly hitting the backstretch wall. but putting up a fight nonetheless. And speaking of which, here comes Larry Griffin. We have a 4-car battle here for the 6th place spot here, just as we're coming into the final laps of the stage. All the points are up for grabs, and this is not what the 6 of Jonathan Burt wants. Dave McConnell thought about going to the middle by the look of the car's language, jolting a little bit to the inside off turn 4. Does he make the move up the middle? He's committed there for the moment. Jonathan Burt slides down to protect, and that's also going to be a deterrent for the 39 of Doug Pierce of carrying that momentum off the top side, closing off the outside lane. And just like that, they're single file once again. We're definitely going to be keeping an eye on this battle as this continues. There goes Doug Pierce to the very inside once again. Dave McConnell feeling things out. Larry Griffin lurking if anything happens. And look at the 6. You see just how close they are, running against the outside wall. 3 laps ago on the stage. I almost said 2. I wouldn't be entirely incorrect, but I wouldn't be the most correct either. As it looks like Doug Pierce may have finally bested the 6 of Jonathan Burt here through turn 1, just like that. And meanwhile, for 8th and 9th, it's between Dave McConnell and Larry Griffin. And here comes Jonathan Burt off turn number 2 to the inside of his own. The lanes have swapped between these two drivers. Not able to carry the momentum on the inside as well as he could for the outside. 2 laps to go in the stage. We'll stick with this battle for the moment, and then we'll confirm everyone's positions as they cross the start-finish line. But is coming down to the wire, and even Jonathan Burt is aware of this. McConnell, well, Dave McConnell in this case, to the inside. Larry Griffin following in the tire tracks of Jonathan Burt. Does he go up the middle? He's indecisive. Now he goes to the middle, shows the nose. He's going to have to move up, and he was clear. He'll follow once again the 6 car down the front stretch. At least he would. The 22 wasn't to the inside. Meanwhile, back up front, it could be a race on for the 10 points in the stage here. I say that a lot can happen in these final few corners here. Well, I say final few corners, it's more just the final turn. So we'll see. Brian McCann leads into turns 3 and 4. And it looks like it'll be an easy stage win. So it's Brian McCann, Cameron Sarton, Hunter Karsten, 1st through 3rd. Michael Thorpe Jr. and Travis Starr will be 4th and 5th. It's going to be a 3 wide and nearly contact. McConnell, Burt, Griffin, and Duff is what that was. I have to say that again. McConnell, Burt, Griffin, and Duff. That was close at the line. In fact, I'll have to double check that just to be sure here on the timing screen. McConnell, Burt, Griffin, yeah. So it was McCann, Sarton, Karsten, Thorpe, Dart, Pierce, McConnell, Burt, Griffin, and Duff. I swear I just saw smoke off of the last corner here, but we will regroup. Let's stick with this battle here for the 8th place spot. Jonathan Burt's momentum has started to falter, and I don't blame him considering how hot the track is. He was pushing really, really hard. He was up to 4th at a point in this race, but it just didn't work out in his favor necessarily to push so hard early on. Once again, the top 10 were Brian McCann, Cameron Sarton, Hunter Karsten, Michael Thorpe Jr., Travis Starr, Doug Pierce, David McConnell, Jonathan Burt, Larry Griffin, and William Duff. So now that that has been confirmed and points are awarded, it's time to update the point standings. which luckily that shouldn't take too long. In fact, while we still have a chance, let's go ahead and go to a scenic view here, as we'll go ahead and show you the point standings. In fact, let's do this in real time. These are the points as we came into tonight's event. Effectively, Brian McCann has locked himself in just by showing up for tonight. But the very interesting thing here of the point standings, as we will get these updated, is not only has Brian McCann effectively locked himself in, let's refresh. It'd be nice if we saved everything first. There we go. Hunter Carson is now plus 13. Everyone else, save for William Duff, is either plus or minus 5. Even though Tony Brent isn't here, we have effectively 4 drivers fighting for the last spot. And Jonathan Burt is plus 5 points. So these are the points as of the stage points going into the championship 4. So it's now effectively maybe 1 position up for grabs, but we'll have to wait and see how things pan out in the rest of this race. But let's go ahead and go back to the race itself. As it could be wrong, but I don't believe, we might be lucky, I don't believe we had any, I'd say we don't have any position changes. Well, we did. David McConnell and Doug Pierce have, I believe they've started to close the gap to Travis Dart here as we approach lap number 30. Now the very intriguing thing I'm wondering is, are some drivers still saving? And if some are, it won't be the tires, because these conditions just absolutely will not allow for that. Just ask Michael Thorpe Jr. Not playing out in his favor. Let's ride on board with Travis Dart into turns 3 and 4 here. Well, that answers that question. So I think I see what exactly is happening. Some drivers are pushing, some are coasting. David McConnell is one of the drivers that is pushing, as he will slide up just a little bit, trying to maintain control. The car snuck his way into the 4th place position on track. And right here we have 4th through 8th all in one camera shot, all separated by each other. Jonathan Burt is going to be the first driver to go into pit road. And meanwhile, the conditions have gotten to the tires of Michael Thorpe Jr. Unfortunately, still burning the rear tires off of the car at the moment. In fact, this has been enough for William Duff to catch up as well. I thought I saw that correctly, but I wasn't entirely sure. But for William Duff, this is actually really good for him. Able to score a couple extra points for that number 17 machine, as the 34 slides, just held on to it. But yeah, burning the tires off the car is the 34. Let's take a look at that once again. So watch the 34 slides here, still sliding, and just catches it twice. Enough to leave some smoke. What a save. Well, we still have a chance. Well, not necessarily, because here come the first 2 drivers into pit road. Here comes Michael Thorpe Jr. Cameron Sarton has a black flag for speeding on pit entry. And how we know that immediately, well, we'll go ahead and, well, again, this is a good thing for Cameron Sarton. Well, correction, last week was a good thing for Cameron Sarton. The black flag this week, not necessarily. And how we know it's a black flag for speeding, well, eventually we'll see if we can put that into a graphic format as well. But luckily, thanks to the guys over at ATVO, we now have labels in our timing screen that showcase when a driver has a black flag. Here comes Hunter Karsten to pit road. We'll see if we can give that a little bit of a showcase later on, but maybe not. We'll see if we can do this here. As Hunter Karsten makes his way down pit road. So the drivers yet to pit: Travis Start, William Duff, Larry Griffin, and Ryan Lynch. Hunter Karsten has just made his way into pit road, and in fact we'll go ahead and do this the very easy way, now that the pit lane penalty no longer exists necessarily. Well, we'll showcase this in a moment. We'll see how Dart and Duff navigate by the 39 of Doug Pierce. So net lead now goes to Brian McCann, net P2 Hunter Karsten, and net P3 might be David McConnell. I'll wait and see how the pit cycle shakes everything up, because it's already shaking things up by a lot for Cameron Sarton. Speeding in pit road is a, I believe, 30 seconds stop and hold penalty. No, it is 40 seconds. Here comes Travis. Nope, I was going to say Travis Start and William Duff may be going to pit road, but no, they are banking on some form of a caution. Side by side line, William Duff leads the lap that time around. Travis Start has backed off, so I think he has decided that now might be the time to come to pit road. Well, while we have a chance, let's run through a couple things here. First thing, well, let's wait to see if either of these two go to pit road. And that looks to be a no. What about Larry Griffin? He is actively coasting, so we'll see. Ryan Lynch not coasting, so they are fine. I also just realized we don't have our graphics back up on screen. Let's try that one more time. There we go. Well, since we have the moment to do so, and before we have a moment to not do so, let's go ahead and showcase this for Brian McCann. Even though the race isn't over yet, he has effectively locked himself into the championship 4, so no harm, no foul in showing this now. And, well, we have this graphic and we're going to use it. So even though McCann, he's pretty much mathematically locked himself in just by showing up, as mentioned earlier. And then the second thing on the docket, that is going to be, let's see if we can showcase this here momentarily, for a fun behind-the-scenes action of the fun update brought to ATVO recently. Let's go ahead and make sure it saves, just to be sure. So this is not live. The image that you'll see is indeed an image. Again, it is not live, but for a little bit of a showcase, this is what we see in terms of, well, I say we, it's just me, but this is what is now seen when a driver has a black flag. This is when Cameron Sarton was serving his penalty, and you see the black outline and the BF in the small box. That is basically indicating that he has a black flag, and that popped up right when he went through pit entry. It doesn't showcase exactly what the penalty is just yet, but it does show, and context clues as well. It is pretty obvious that once the driver gets that dark background on an outline when they go into pit road, there's only one solution, or one option as to what occurred there. But that is a fun peek behind the scenes as to what we see here on our timing screens. Speaking of seeing things on our timing screens, I just saw Larry Griffin lost a position to Ryan Lynch. Let's try and get to a replay here. So this was going into turns 3 and 4. What happened to the 7? Oh, just loose on corner entry. Trying to coast. And maybe going to pit road? Yeah, it looked like Larry wanted to go to pit road, but was not necessarily able to go to pit road. Does he go to pit road this time around? No, so this is very intriguing. So let's pull up the previous lap times as well for these drivers. And this is as they cross the start-finish line, but the top 4 have been averaging about a 45.5, we'll call it. And then everybody else is averaging around a 43.3, kind of, depending on where you're at in the field. But still a 12-second gap between William Duff, Travis Start, and Brian McCann. So wondering if they're still trying to bank on a caution. They definitely wanted to run long, hence the saving. But we're going to have to make a move at some point. There is Cameron Sarton. Now he is 1 lap down. Once the top 4 go to pit road, Cameron Sarton might as well be pretty much back on the lead lap from unlapping himself as they split Larry Griffin 3 wide. Cameron Sarton not running for position. Brian McCann is running for position. Of course, he is allowed to fight for his lead back, or for his lap back, if he so chooses. Top 2 stay out. Ryan Lynch also stays out. Does Larry Griffin go to pit road? He also stays out. It is a pass for position between Michael Thorpe Jr. and Jonathan Burt. Well, this isn't exactly what I meant when I said William Duff was in a must-win situation, but you know what? Let's showcase it anyway. This is what the points would look like if William Duff were to win tonight's event. It's wild seeing Cameron Sarton scored in 11th, first on the time in town, but that's not incorrect. Or first on the championship standings, I should say. Michael Thorpe is on the back foot, so it's effectively a fight between Jonathan Burt and Hunter Karsten. Hunter Karsten with the upper edge right now, as he sits in 6th, and then 9th place is Jonathan Burt. Ryan Lynch has just been passed by the 8 of Brian McCann for 3rd place. Well, let's see if the top 2, now that, do they plan to split 50-50? Are they going to try and make it until lap 50? That's what I'm wondering. Hunter Karsten gets by Larry Griffin. They might try. You know what? That might be what they're trying here. And this could be a little bit of a trial run to see if that works. It's a 6.5 second gap. Between, well, no, 5.5 second gap between William Duff and Brian McCann, with 4 laps until halfway. Is this a trial for the last half of the race? I did say William Duff is in a must-win situation. This might do it, but it will be close. So let's, no, he's going to pit road actually. So maybe William Duff didn't save. He did start in pit road. No speeding penalty for the 17, luckily. Travis Start's still saving. Ryan Lynch has stayed out. Does Larry Griffin? No, he also stays out. So let's use Travis Start as the further example now. 3.2 second gap. And this is with constant saving, pretty much ever since the start of the race, if I'm not mistaken. Coming to the halfway point in this race. Lap number 48, the gap is 2.7 seconds. I don't think it would be possible. The gap, the speed is almost 2 seconds per lap advantage towards Brian McCann in this instance, as David McConnell gets by Larry Griffin, who has spun on pit entry, but because he spun on pit entry and well off the track, there is no caution. Let's go ahead and look at this from off turn number 4. So we see Larry Griffin slowing down. And, oh, it wasn't that transition. No, it wasn't. It was quite a bit later, so maybe just too much braking. Well, in the meantime, it's a 1 second gap between Brian McCann and Travis Dart. William Duff has gone by, gotten his lap back. Same goes for Cameron Sarton. So hypothetically, and if we were to apply this to the final half of this race, this would be with 2 laps to go, coming to 1 lap to go. Is it possible? Maybe. It might be possible, but you'd have to stretch a little bit longer just to be sure that the advantage goes in your own favor. And Travis Dart, as well as Ryan Lynch, are going to be the ones to try out this strategy. William Duff couldn't make it. As we reach, well, 2 laps before the halfway point, we are 51 laps to go. The only driver 1 lap down right now is Larry Griffin from the spin on pit entry. Aside from that, knock on wood, a clean race so far. Here we go. This time by is officially the halfway point of this event. As Brian McCann crosses the start-finish line, we are 50 laps complete and 50 laps to go. Travis Dart has finally called it into pit road. Ryan Lynch has decided to stay out. A very intriguing strategy here for the number 3. We'll see how things play out here this time by. And even more so, we're going to go ahead and go side by side. You won't miss a single bit of the action here. So keep an eye on your leader and any close battles on the racetrack. But right now, Brian McCann leads as we approach the final 49 laps of this event.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Here at TWRS, we're always here to help our squad when they need a little push in the right direction. That's just who we are. We're a beautifully diverse group of goofballs dedicated to driving fake race cars as fast as possible. And we continue to push each other to the front using the power of nonsense. We have one of the strongest NASCAR programs on the service, and you can access it all for $24.99 a month. And we just released individual subscriptions for $14.99 a month for each NASCAR vehicle. We also just added a rallycross program, and our IndyCar program is taking off as well. So come join the weird side. We have speed and cookies. Cookies are not included in some locations.
We are back live here at the virtual Auto Club Speedway for the California 200. And as things stand, this is how, that's not the right graphic, this is how the championship standings look as of the stage. As Cameron Sarton and Brian McCann have effectively, well, Sarton won last week at Phoenix, and McCann, simply just by showing up this week, has locked himself into the Championship 4. So the positions that we are currently looking at are Hunter Carson and Jonathan Burt. Tony Brent, Philip Chavez not here, Michael Thorpe Jr. and William Duff are. They're going to be trying to get their final spot into the Championship 4. And this is how things currently stand with live points in mind. Going well in favor of both Hunter Carson and Jonathan Burt on the racetrack. Here is the 13 of Hunter Carson, currently sitting in the second place position on track. Just about one lap behind in pit strategy, or one lap actually past pit strategy for Brian McCann, likely hoping, potentially, that he could maybe overcut the number 8 and really secure his spot, but we will see how things fare. Here's Jonathan Burt sitting 5th on the racetrack in that number 6 machine. Effectively, all he has to do is finish the event, and I don't believe he'll be at risk. In fact, yeah. We'll double check the math on this one really quickly. So hypothetically, Jonathan Burt could DNF and still point his way in, but Michael Thorpe Jr. is on the outside looking in at the moment. He currently sits ahead of Jonathan Burt on the racetrack, 2,058 points to Jonathan Burt's 2,071 points. And right now, the drivers in a must-win situation are not only Michael Thorpe Jr., but it's also the 17 of William Duff, currently sitting 7th place in the on track at the moment, as we just crossed into 40 laps to go. So that is how things look at the moment for your championship points, and if anything does change, we will update you in due course. Speaking of being in due course, Ryan McCann, due course to be leading once again, still chasing down Cameron Sarton. Do not adjust your pictures in case you weren't here. Cameron Sarton, in case you weren't here at the time of pit stops, more specifically, Cameron Sarton had sped on pit road, on pit entry, and got himself a stop and hold penalty, I believe 40 seconds. So he had to serve that penalty. He had to fight his way back onto the, well, in front of Brian McCann for the net quote-unquote lead. And now that Brian McCann has cycled back through to the lead, Cameron Sarton has also cycled his way back into being on the lead lap, albeit only in 9th. But he is safe. He could, again, one of these things where he could hypothetically DNF and he would be fine. We saw that same thing, saw a similar thing happen with him at the Milwaukee Mile, where he spun off turn 4 and had to pretty much retire the car, but he had won the week beforehand, if I remember correctly, so no harm, no foul if he does DNF this week. Same goes for Brian McCann. So right now, the closest battle on the racetrack is between Doug Pierce and Jonathan Burt. In fact, with how things stand right now in terms of the actual point standings, this is going to take a little bit to do, but this is possible. In the meantime, let's ride on board the 36, the 39 rather, as he chases down the 6 car for P5 on the racetrack. So with how all the positions are for everybody on the racetrack, it'll be Doug Pierce potentially cementing his spot in P13. Last time we checked in with Doug Pierce and Larry Griffin, they were tied on points at 323 points, I believe, leaving the Milwaukee Mile or going into the Milwaukee Mile, but it was a battle for 13th nonetheless, and then Larry Griffin did not show up last week, and then that put the favor towards the 39. Why is, you know what, it's lap 30. Hunter Karsten, interestingly enough, is trying for an undercut, despite the fact that, well, when we checked, and when he was running in second, he was plus 20 in the cutoff, so he would have been fine. Jonathan Burt would have been plus 9, Michael Thorpe Jr. would have been minus 9. Again, must-win situation for Thorpe and Duff, so very intriguing strategy by Hunter Karsten to pit with 33 laps to go, but you know what? He doesn't really have much to lose, and in fact, let's go ahead and showcase the points here. 10-point gap between himself and Michael Thorpe Jr., so we'll see how things pan out here as both Jonathan Burt and Doug Pierce make their way into pit road. Well, a second round of pit stops is on the board. Here comes Brian McCann, keeping a very close eye on the timing screen for a lot of various reasons, but staying out of trouble is Brian McCann. Can we say the same for the 22 of David McConnell as he makes his way into pit road? Yes, we can. That is Michael Thorpe Jr. as well. No pit lane penalty. William Duff has decided to stay out. Does Travis Stark go to pit road this time around? Yes, he does. He decides to stay on the racetrack. Same goes for likely Cameron Sarton. No move towards pit road. Maybe a little bit of a glance, but nothing else. Same for Ryan Lynch. Then we look back to the driver who started the early round of pit stops here. It is the 13 of Hunter Karsten. Started 4th place, remember. So far, a pretty good day for the number 13. A lot can still happen in these last 32 laps. We saw a little bit earlier on around the first round of pit stops that Larry Griffin had spun on pit entry. Granted, it did not bring out a yellow, but it doesn't mean it's not possible to spin and stay out of trouble on pit entry. Here comes Cameron Sarton. This time, he is fine, doesn't get caught by the speed radar. Doesn't go over the speed limit, so everything fine this time around. Probably was a couple miles an hour slower than before, just to be sure. Just like that, Hunter Carson's already up to what would effectively be net P2 on the racetrack. As Cameron Sarton gets shuffled down the order for being in pit road. Here is Brian McCann, currently sits P3. Trying to start William Duff, likely, very likely, not going to make it this time around. Not making it to the end of the race, more specifically. It'd be impressive, but it'd be a 50... It'd be... I mean, here's the thing. William Duff has been out and has not pit for 23 laps. It will be 24 if he stays out this time by, and it will be. I don't know if William Duff is going to be able to stay out for a total of 54 laps. So at this point, if he does stay out, it's more to bank on any potential caution, which might as well. I don't blame him. Nothing to lose. Might as well try something. Might as well try something different. That's the words I was looking for. We got there at the end of the day. Right now, it's a matter of the speed difference. I mean, Brian McCann is about 2 seconds faster. No, well, yeah, 2 seconds faster just about than William Duff and Travis Stark, where Brian McCann will just slide on by the outside lane. Travis Stark might be looking to go into pit road, and every time I think that is not the case. However, with the line that Travis Stark had taken and, well, with the momentum carrying him up into the outside wall, I'm pretty sure he's wishing he had gone to pit road, and, well, I can only empathize with that. There are times where even I wish I stayed out, or, well, I wish I went to pit road. Doug Pierce has made his way past Larry Griffin for the 8th place position. And there is your current leader. There is your net leader through turns 3 and 4. 28 laps to go at the start-finish line. Well, since we never really did this just yet, let's go ahead and wait for Brian McCann to round turn 4. In fact, where's Hunter Carson? Here he is. Wait for Hunter Carson to round off turn 4, and then we will ride on board with him for a couple laps, just so you get the feel of what it's like racing here at the Auto Club Speedway, which, oh, by the way, iRacing.com/Black Friday. Black Friday deals are active. I would take advantage of those, and I'm going to eventually after this. That's why I'm bored with Hunter Karsten for a couple laps. And that was the ride on board. I heard the tires screech just a little bit. If you had a keen ear, you might have heard the tires screech, and of course the sound of a car hitting the outside wall just a little bit, but that's not going to stop Hunter Karsten from getting what is effectively a net P2 after this. Waiting for William Duff and Travis Start to go to pit road, and William Duff was in the outside wall actually. Not enough to be around or cause a caution, but it was definitely noticeable on corner exit. So let's see, does he just slide up? Oh, yeah, we can see it already right there. Just a bit too much momentum. Well, Travis Start and Hunter Karsten side by side for a brief moment in turns 3 and 4, and that has quickly come to an end as Hunter Karsten makes his way up into effectively a net P2 still, but currently P3 on the racetrack. William Duff has stayed out. Luckily for Cameron Sarton, if a caution does come out, he is the only one guaranteed to get a, well, never mind. Alright, well, he still has a chance to be the first driver one lap down. Oh, with a hit, especially from the 77 off of turn 2, just hangs on to it, luckily. I was about to say Cameron Sarton's kind of lucky because he's going to be the only driver one lap down, but then right when I said that, to check in on Larry Griffin, well, he went a lap down. Meanwhile, Michael Thorpe Jr. and Ryan Lynch are side by side off turn 2, down the back straightaway they go. And that moves the 34 up into P6. The slick track not doing him any favors, and neither is the temperature. It is still, well, I say still, temperature's actually gone up a little bit in Celsius, actually. It's gone up 1 degree Celsius to be more specific. 138 degree track temperature. In Fahrenheit, 89 degree air temperature, still 31 Celsius. I think it was 88 when we last checked in at the beginning of the event. But the track is not getting any colder, that's for sure. We're going to need a lot of clouds for that to happen, but that will not be the case. 21 laps to go as Brad McCann goes into pit road. There, Griffin has gotten past. I should say, Cameron Sarton has gone by Larry Griffin. So back to the first driver, 1 lap down. There's Jonathan Burt. There is Brian McCann. So We'll see how things fare. Again, still a risk of a caution. Even though it is a small field, there's still a risk of a caution with these last, I'll say 18 laps. Because once a driver spins on the white flag lap, it is over for that driver. Let's go ahead and ride on board Brian McCann for a lap or two here. And through all of that, I think Cameron Sargent has actually been catching up to Brian McCann. What's the lap times this time by? 44.615 for Brian McCann, and Cameron Sargent 44.3, so even that made my head spin. Wow. So for Cameron Sargent, he could race his way back onto the lead lap if he doesn't hit the outside wall, which that is the closest I've seen someone to just getting the outside wall without touching it. And into the outside wall goes Cameron Sargent. Well, he had the run, but on the bright side, he has nothing to lose. Speaking of drivers that don't have anything to lose, let's go ahead and double check the point standings. Hunter Karsten being one of those drivers. If he were to DNF and finish in 11th, well, since it's 1 point per position, in fact, I could just do this the significantly easier way. At the moment, Hunter Karsten has earned, not including state, well, at the moment, Hunter Karsten has earned, let's go with 35 points just to make it easy, including stage points. Right now, he does have 35 points. For 11th place would award approximately, not even approximately, but exactly 26 points. So we do a simple math of 2,077 minus 26. And interestingly, Hunter Karsten is actually at risk. So if he does DNF, he would have 2,051 points. That would mean Michael Thorpe Jr. and Jonathan Burt would both move up. So that is quite, that's genuinely intriguing. So Hunter Karsten, despite running second, despite running so well this race, is technically at risk. In fact, I did say this makes sense, because earlier he was running believe earlier when we last did this, he was running in second. Yes, he was. That means he's only plus 20 points above the cut line. That is... yeah, that's actually right there. I could have just looked at Michael Thorpe Jr.'s points. It's at 2,057, so... it's a very small chance with everything given, but there is still a chance. So in order for Hunter Carson to, if he were to wreck out, I believe he might have to finish in order to wreck out and still stay in. Actually, it's not even on the cards for him. It'll have to be everybody else at least a lap or more down. I think I'm doing the math wrong here. Hold on a minute. I feel like I'm doing the math very incorrectly. Hold on a second. I am doing the math incorrectly. Forget the entire thing I've been saying for the last 2 minutes. Math is hard sometimes. I can say that much. So 35, 34, 33. And I could just do 1, 2, 3. Wait, hold on. I could just do 11 minus 2. There we go. So that's 9 points. Still intriguing, because 9 points back would put him at 2,070 points. Jonathan Burt could get third in the championship standings. One position could mean a lot after all. But entirely forget the entire thing I've been saying, where he could DNF and still not make it. Turns out I was subtracting the wrong amount of points. Now subtracting is total earned points, and I forgot. Oh right, it's 1 point based off of every position. Well, for the most part, first place normally will get 40 points. I say normally, considering, well, we've seen drivers more win and lock in more than anything. The only driver that we've seen get 40 points. So hold on a minute. Cameron Sarton into pit road. Only 20 laps on his run. I wouldn't be surprised if he does decide to pull it behind the virtual wall. No, he's getting tires, so he is running to the end, but I think he knows that he can't afford to do this. He's probably just having fun at this point, so... I don't know. I don't necessarily blame him. Meanwhile, for Jonathan Burt, potentially looking to get his lap back, but 44.8 across the start-finish line for Brian McCann, 45.5 for Jonathan Burt. What a shame too for Jonathan Burt, genuinely, because he was running 4th place early on in the race. But then quickly fell, the pace had just quickly fallen off. The tires just do not like, effectively, I believe, his driving style, as well as the, just this track itself, the track temperature and the driving style. You have to do your best to adapt, but sometimes it's just, not the most favorable. And it turns out, well... forget the tires going on the car for Cameron Sarton. He is actually not out on track. He has decided to pull it behind the virtual wall. And you know what? Like I said before, I do not blame him. I think this is the one instance where, quote-unquote, start and park, and I'm using that term very loosely, would not be frowned upon, because he is locked in. He has nothing to race for this week. He is fine. So I don't blame him. Props to him for showing up and for running, what was it, 89 laps? He didn't technically have to, but he did anyway. We had just seen William Duff as well go past Doug Pierce for the 7th place position on the racetrack. Looks like things might stay as they are here. Again, a lot can happen in the last 6 laps. Well, 5 laps, I'll call it. 5.5. Well, more like 5 and, 7/8 or whatever. Because once the driver hits the white flag at the start finish line, a caution could come out here, just at the first Auto Club logo, where Brian McCann was, and the race could not be complete. So a lot can happen. But in the meantime, let's see, there was something I was going to do, and it involves the point standings. Ah, right, it's resetting everybody else. Which again, the drivers that had made it to the Championship 8, or the Championship 8, the round of 8, their points for this round will be reset, and they will be back on par with the drivers from 7 through 12. So effectively, all that means is the drivers from 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th in the standings lose the 2,000 moniker, and they will instead go back to the 1,000 moniker. The annoying part is having to reorder everybody in the first place, but that should be way easier than expected. We'll see if we can get that sorted by the end of the race, especially with these final 5 laps to go. Still, Brian McCann leading by 13.1 seconds. I believe this might be actually the largest gap on an oval that we have had. I could double check this if it didn't show the point standings. Because I remember Atlanta, that felt so long ago. It feels like it was last year. I remember Atlanta was a pretty large gap. So let me double check with everything here. Well, in fact, the largest gap we might have is 17.172, and that was last week at the Milwaukee Mile. The shortest gap might be from Talladega. Shortest margin of victory, 9/1000ths of a second. I have to go back through and double check that, so I could be incorrect. I would believe Daytona to be the closest finishing margin that we had this season. No, it is Talladega. The top 3 at Talladega. In fact, the top 2 at Talladega, 0.022 seconds. And then for the top 3, it was 0.035 for the top 3. And then for Talladega, well, that is the closest top 3 finishing margin this season. 9/1000ths of a second between first and second, and then 0.013 seconds between first and third. So that is officially the closest finishing margin of the season. Leave it to a 4-wide finish to do that. Who would have thought? In the meantime, it is 2 laps to go for Brian McCann. Never mind, it's 3 laps to go. I thought that was 2. I saw 3 at the line. It was probably right just when I looked. Hypothetically, even Brian McCann could decide to not finish the race. That's not the right graphic. There we go. And it would be fine, but he is mathematically locked in with 2 laps to go here this race. 10 points separate Hunter Karsten from Jonathan Burt, and then a further 10 points between Jonathan Burt and Michael Thorpe Jr. This is going to be the time where, if you're Michael Thorpe Jr. or William Duff, you're hoping for a caution. How spread out the field is, the only thing that could cause the caution is the ridiculously slick track conditions. 138 degrees Fahrenheit. And it looks like, well, we'll just hold off and wait. Does the caution come out at the last second? Because if it does, that will change everything. This time by the start-finish line, white flag is being flown. Race is official. And we are going 100 laps here in the California 200. Brian McCann has showcased this season, in case it hasn't been clear enough, that he is someone to very much look out for when it comes to being dominant here. Someone who could give him a run for his money is Brian McCann. Brian McCann could give Brian McCann a run for his own money, quite realistically, but fellow racers on the track could also be Cameron Sarton. But, well, we'll wait and see how things fare. Hitting the outside wall just for fun as he wins at the Auto Club Speedway for the last 2 spots in the championship. However, it is going to be Hunter Karsten with a well-deserved 10-point advantage over Jonathan Burt. And speaking of Jonathan Burt, he's all the way on the back straightaway, and in fact, he is a lap down, so he has finished the race. He has also advanced into the championship 4. I wonder if he's still running or not, but regardless, while we still have a chance, let's throw this up on screen for Jonathan Burt. He has officially advanced into the championship 4. The same goes for Hunter Karsten. He'll get his graphic momentarily as Brian McCann is about to burn it down here on the front straightaway. Race winner at the Auto Club Speedway burns it down once again. A very long John Force burnout down the front stretch. And a look at your finishing results of this race. It is in the first place position. I'm going to get this ready for our spreadsheets as well. Brian McCann, Hunter Karsten, and Travis Dart, your top 3. We're going to interview with them momentarily. Dave McConnell finishes in the 4th place position. Michael Thorpe Jr., a great climb to the 5th place position to get a top 5 by the end of this event. William Duff finishes in the 6th place position. Ryan Lynch, 7th. Doug Pierce has finished in 8th. Jonathan Burt, 9th. And Larry Griffin has finished in 10th, with Cameron Sarton finishing in 11th, choosing to pull it behind the wall on his own accord. As, he advanced, and not really necessarily needing to race for the rest of the event. So that is your championship standings. Well, correction, finishing results. We'll get to your championship standings. I do want to see, in fact, we'll do this now. We'll go ahead and showcase the championship standings now that everything has been, official. So we'll go ahead and pull up the graphic as of the stage. This is what everything looked like. We can get the proper graphic. That would be fantastic. And for the Championship 4, this is what the points look like going into, I say going into next week. This is what the points look like leaving this week, not going into next week. Brian McCann, Cameron Sarton, Hunter Karsten, and Jonathan Burt are your Championship 4 drivers. Michael Thorpe Jr., 6 points shy. William Duff, 16 points shy. Tony Brent Chavez, both 27 points shy. Both of them choosing not to race for this week. Well, I say Philip Chavez. Tony Brent, as far as I know, has chosen not to race for this week, but Philip Chavez unable to race for the rest of this season due to real-life commitments. And now we'll go ahead and get an interview with your top 3 finishers, and that is starting off with the 26 of Travis Dart, where Travis, he had a pretty good run today, silent run, qualified 7th, finishing 3rd, so a silent but smooth run throughout this afternoon.
Yeah, I tried a strategy. It didn't work whatsoever because I still finished like 25 seconds behind Brian McCann, who ran a great race. I don't think I would have beaten him. I don't think I had the speed, but I tried a one-stopper. That was not the strategy call whatsoever.
And despite trying the one-stopper, he still somehow ended up in third place. But for this week, let's go ahead and talk about the tires as well. Last week, it was, of course, under the lights at Phoenix. It was, I believe, average 78-degree track temperature, 79 if it was even the worst. And then the worst today was 139 degrees. So how are the tires handling out there for you? Because I did see some sliding from a couple drivers, some drivers hitting the outside wall as well. I believe you did at a couple points.
Yeah, that was more so I think of following people into the wall, not me putting myself into the wall. But other people were definitely hitting the wall. Um, yeah, the setup was I don't even know how to even begin with this setup. It was like loose on entry, but tight out of two. But I think that had to do with the wind. But then it was like loose in three and four. But then the tire percentage it ran tight. I don't even know. It didn't. I definitely ran off the right front a lot more. I just wish I could have ran off the left rear a little bit more. I think that would have played into my strategy probably a little bit better, but it is what it is. I didn't really notice. I don't know. I think just the physics and mechanics of this car and these tracks is just so messed up right now that I don't even know what to think. Because if with the track temp that we had, I felt like I shouldn't even be able to go 50 laps.
It was definitely a very challenging conditions, of course, and very slick, brutal as well. And well, that only, in fact, I should double check, but I believe that does continue next. Yes, it does. It unfortunately does continue next week at the Virtual Las Vegas, 1:20 p.m. In sim time. So another daytime race. But of course, I'm pretty sure you're hoping that you'll be able to score a couple extra points on some of the other drivers that are that you're going to be fighting for here.
Yeah, I think I should be pretty decent. I've had two. Well, no, never mind. All three playoff races have been bad for me. I forgot last week I got wrecked, but that one at least was of my own doing. Um, yeah, I have no clue. I mean, I'm kind of just content with just finishing out these races now. I'm having a lot of fun. A lot of green flag races. Wish we had more people out, but it is what it is. Um, yeah, I mean, I just wish we had more people out so it'd be more competitive, but it's fun.
That definitely is a lot of fun. Before we go ahead and let you go ahead and shout who gets it done for you for that number 26.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you up in the booth, Steve as race control, everybody in the league who shows up week in and week out. It's been a lot of fun with a lot of green flag racing. Our sponsors, Butt Kicker, the oh gosh, I already forgot.
On the throttle.
On the throttle, yes, I wanted to say something else. On the throttle, check out their Instagram and such, and then also Team Watson Racing Setups, who we build setups for, and we've done a pretty good job, and a lot of satisfied customers, and we're pretty competitive each week in the Be Open series. So if you want to be open setup, definitely check out teamwatsonracingsetups.com.
And the link is in the description below for all three aforementioned as well. So go ahead and check that out once we're done with the interviews here. But thanks, Travis, for your time. We hope to talk to you again next week.
Yep, awesome. Thank you.
And that is third place finisher Travis Start. And we move on to, we will now move on to someone who I'm sure is going to be very relieved to hear the following words of being locked into the championship 4 by, I think, 20 points. No, well, yeah, 20 points. So, Hunter Carson, congratulations. You have officially made it into the championship 4. So, I'm pretty sure a large weight off your chest now that the round of 8 is over.
Yeah, I'd say so. At the beginning of the season, I honestly didn't think that potentially racing for a championship was going to be possible at season's end, but here we are.
And here we are indeed. Especially, I did notice, I believe, yeah, you did undercut, or at least attempt a little bit of an undercut in the second round of pit stop. So, was it more just down to trying an undercut to see what happens, or was it more the tires in your case were starting to get a little bit more out of favor than you were hoping?
A bit of mixture of both. I was kind of struggling a little bit at the end of that run, and I was so far back, might as well try it and see what happens. And kind of ended up being the same old during this race.
Especially with the hot track temperatures going into today as well. But next week and then 2 weeks from now, we head to both Las Vegas as well as the Richmond Raceway, both day races. So, with how everything has been so far this season, what are your thoughts on Vegas and Richmond as we head into the championship races, or is it more just attacking that as the weeks come?
I'd say it's more or less just attacking it week by week. Richmond, I should probably get some laps in. I've always struggled there in whatever I race in. And Vegas, I've recently been getting better and better at, and not too long ago ran a race and ran up front. So hopefully that's what happens whenever we go to Vegas.
And hopefully that will be the case. Before we go ahead and let you go celebrate your second place finish here for this week, go ahead and shout out who gets it done for you.
I'd like to shout out 24 Social, 24 Speed, 213 Somewhere, Reaper, and my Twitch, Hunter Carson 1. I'm trying to stream more, and yeah.
Hopefully, some people will be able to go ahead and check out your point of view if you do manage to get that up in time for the last 2 races of the season.
Yeah, we'll see.
I'm going to go ahead and let you go. Congratulations once again on your second place.
Thank you, thank you.
That is second place finisher Hunter Karsten, and we will move on to someone who didn't have to win, but I think just for fun and probably because he thought it was funny, decided to win for this week. Brian McCann, another win on this season. Insanely comfortable heading into the championship for next week. I mean, even just by showing up for this week, not even including stage points, just by showing up, you had pretty much automatically advanced. But a great race for you nonetheless. The second largest finishing margin, I believe, to second place for this season.
Thank you. Yeah. Auto Club. I like the track. We were out there at the beginning. Cameron was chasing me down, and looked like it was going to be a good race. I called out to my crew chief. I was like, hey, give me that special right front tire. So he went in the trailer and got the special right front tire and put it on there. But unfortunately, something happened to Cameron in the pits, and we didn't get to race it out. But Sarton was fast. I was a little worried about him during the race. Car handled not great. It was a different experience, but we made it work.
So the thing that happened for Cameron Sargent is that he had ended up speeding on pit entry. So not the most kindest thing, but the second go around he managed to shy away from the ire of the officials who were paying very close attention, which I don't blame them. But the only one to get a black flag for this race as well. But luckily for him, he was pretty comfortable, especially after last week at Phoenix. But this week, well, it was Auto Club, so next week is one I should be looking ahead for, is Las Vegas, the end of the West Coast swing, well, Western swing, Southwest swing, that sounds a little bit better. The end of the Southwest swing, heading to Vegas next week, another day race as well, and then 2 weeks it is Richmond. So how has your preparation gone for those last 2 races?
I'll show up the day of and run it.
All right, fair enough.
But no, I might practice since it's championship race. I'm sure everybody else will be, and it really comes down to those 2 races. So really, anybody can. The 4 drivers, anybody can win. So that's always an exciting time during the season, and look forward to it.
And we also look forward to it as well. Before we go ahead and let you go, shout out who gets it done for you for that number 8.
Yeah, my family, you for doing the broadcast, great job. League admins for putting this show on and everything they do behind the scenes. Sponsors for helping us out. Race Control, keep an eye on us, and the drivers and everybody watching tonight. Thank you.
We thank you for your time as well. I'm going to go ahead and let you go. Congratulations once again on your race win this season. Well, this week.
Thanks.
And that is Brian McCann in the number 8. And we don't necessarily have a graphic for this. I say this, but I'll see if I can throw this together very quickly in these next not even 1 minute, just so we're all clear on what the championship standings will be looking like going into the next week. I need to double check this as well on our side, just so we can get all of these points, make sure that they are indeed accurate, which already does not seem to be the case. There's a couple drivers that are tied, interestingly enough. Tiny Brent should be, well, maybe not. All right, maybe we won't change those ones. But to put it shortly, the championship 4, Jonathan Burt, Hunter Karsten, Brian McCann, and Cameron Sarton will all be reset to a solid 3,000 points. So no playoff point advantage going into the last 4 races. It was just going to be... Excuse me. It's going to be, I say the last 4 races, the last 2 races over the last these last 3 weeks. But 3,000 points even for the championship for drivers. And we'll see how things fare as we move on to the race for next week. Of course, that race being the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway. It will be 150 laps in Nevada, the end of the Southwest Swing, and that is going to be the site of starting off the Championship 4. As we head in, we have decided the final 4 drivers are going to head into Vegas next week. Does anyone decide to live up to the moniker of being, of having this race in Las Vegas and maybe try an alternate strategy, gamble on fuel mileage? We'll find out one way or another next week at Las Vegas. Good night from the Virtual Auto Club Speedway.